Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Becoming Ageless podcast, where we have conversations about whole health for naturally increasing health span and decreasing biological age. I'm your host, Robynn Lin Fredericks, and I believe both in being and living ageless. I always like to remind my listeners that creating a long health span is like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. It takes many odd shaped pieces to complete a beautiful masterpiece. While we can't control everything in our environment, becoming ageless is both a lifestyle and a mindset that requires us to become aware of the things that we are actually able to control. Essentially, we're building an actionable plan to put the odds in our favor to achieve health goals as we grow older. Learning the way the body works and then learning to work with the body as a team is, in my opinion, the key to increased health span. And with that in mind, today's conversation involves some of my favorite integrative therapies. We're talking about the lymphatic system, breath work, benefits of hot and cold therapies, as well as pairing the two together for contrast therapy. My guest today is Jacob Deal. He's the owner and proprietor of CryoAid here in Napa, California. He first discovered cryotherapy when he was looking for relief for his own health, particularly stress and inflammation after he lost his home to a fire. Finding success through this integrative practice, he did a deep dive into research, and 6 years later, he now helps hundreds of clients accomplish their health goals. So I'm sure you're going to gain a lot of information from his experience and knowledge. So I encourage you to grab a pen and be ready to take a few notes. Now, on to go. Hello, Jacob. Welcome to Becoming Ageless podcast. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for asking me on.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to dig into today's show, and there's so much that I want to talk to you about. But of course, we have to start with our leading question. What are you doing today to expand your own health span, to extend your own health span, should I say?
Yeah. I've been intermittent fasting. I think that's a big one for me. So I've been intermittent fasting now for about 4 years.
Hmm.
I cut off food about 9 o'clock and then I don't introduce food again until about 1. So I do that. I also do the infrared sauna first thing in the morning,
Right.
right after a workout, and then drink plenty of water. And I don't know if I could add coffee into that. I'm not science backs that.
Coffee is good for me.
But yeah, yeah, those are just a few things, lots of water, getting the body moving, getting the hot therapy, and then followed with the hot here in the morning. Then I'll follow it up with a cold shower.
Nice. Nice. I like that. And we're going to get into those very specific things too. Um, I would love to start out with a little bit of your story. Of course, you are, the owner of CryoAid, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But you had, if I remember correctly, a little coffee shop or something beforehand. How did you get into all of this hot, cold therapy stuff?
Yeah. So I lost my house in 2015 in the Valley Fire. And at that point, I had had the coffee shop for 5 years. And so then the house got burnt. And then I'm living in a little trailer, raising my family. And stress was just extremely high. And so then I was doing some research. I'm a researcher by nature. And so I started doing research on, hey, how can I calm my mind down? It just seemed to be on fire a lot.
Yeah.
And I was just exhausted, And so I did some research on cold therapy. I found a place in Santa Rosa that did the cryotherapy, the whole body chamber. I did it the first time. And that night I slept the best night of sleep. Like it literally reminded me of a kid, like when I was a child.
Uh huh.
I woke up in a drool puddle. And literally, I know that's like TMI, but it's
Hey,
if you wake up in a drool puddle, it changes your
you
life.
know it's good.
Yeah. And so once I woke up, I was like, what just happened? And I'm very in tune with my body and my mind. And so I was like, okay, I knew what I went for. And when I achieved something greater than what I actually went for, then I was like, okay, start talking to my wife. I'm like, hey, what do you think about selling the coffee shop and like doing this business. And that's where it really all started, was that just the cold initially.
That's really good information. Um, Now you have your own sauna at home.
That's right. It's infrared.
Okay, cool. And of course, you've got sauna and cryoaid, which I go to you guys. Um, I want to jump into all of that, and I want you to kind of lead a little bit of this direction because I'm a researcher as well, but I'm loving what you have done and what you've pulled up. So I don't know, should we start with the hot cold or should we start with the lymphatic system?
Man, I mean, it all kind of goes hand in hand, honestly.
It
And I
does.
was yeah, and I was thinking about it leading up to this interview, and I think the biggest thing for your listeners to grab hold of today is, as people, we overcomplicate everything.
We do.
We do. We look at one thing, we go down a rabbit hole, and there's some good stuff in that rabbit hole. But at the end of the day, I think if we were to take a step back and go, okay, let's simplify this stuff.
Hmm.
Well, I think we could say, well, I know we can say that the lymphatic system is the sewage drainage system of the body.
Right.
And so if that's not working properly, then everything else kind of backs up from there. And so cold and hot will help move that system along.
Right.
Um, so yeah, let's dive into that part to not overcomplicate it really.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the lymphatic system. So it is the sewage drainage of the body. So if you think about a house, the plumbing goes one way if it's working properly, right? It all goes
Like,
down to the sewer, or it goes to the whatever you have going on, right? Septic system, whatever it is. If there's a problem there, well, then we all know what happens, right? The pipes get backed up.
we had that happen when we first moved in, so I'm very well aware of that.
It's a mess. It's a mess,
It is.
right? It's a mess. And so when things get messy like that with the body, um, it starts being visible even, right? A lot of acne is contributed to that, because it's the way that we detox, right? The lymphatic system is the way that we're able to flush all those toxins out. And so the four ways that it works mainly in the body is sweat, breath, bowels, and urine. Four ways. That's it. So I know a lot of people in this. Well, I think since this is a health podcast, I think this would work for this. A lot of people have issues with bowel movements,
Yeah.
and that's a big thing to look at first. Again, not to overcomplicate things, but to like look at, like, are you having bowel movements at least twice a day? Or some people are like, twice a day. What? You know what I mean? Like, yes, at least twice a day. Healthy stool needs to be coming out, and then
Right.
also urine needs to be a nice lighter color. Um, you know what I mean? Just some of these things right here, we just need to kind of nip, because if you're not having those things, well, then that could be leading to whatever you're going through, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Acne, maybe you don't, like, maybe you have like stomach issues. You know what I mean? Like all these things, heart stuff, like acid reflux could be involved with the way your digestive tract's working, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So,
It is so important because I mean, I've had clients where they will use the bathroom like once a month and they think, well, as long as they get that one time a month, then I'm regular, right? Um, and you can Google Bristol stool charts, and that gives you actual pictures of what it should look like or what a healthy bowel movement should look like. So that's a really good place to start. Um, and if I could just jump in as well, we're talking about detoxing. If you're not having those bowel movements and you start trying to do a detox,
ooh,
all of it's just going to get clogged up,
for sure.
So, okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
No, that's 100%. I mean, I could piggyback on that even also. Like, so that's the reason why I kind of started there, I believe, is because people do want change when they come in. They have some sort of injury or issue or whatever, right? I have two sides of the business. I have natural wellness, and then I have the aesthetic side.
Right.
And a lot of times in the aesthetic side, they're like, we start with the lymph, because it's like, hey, how are these systems working? Because if they're not working right, then what I'm about to do to you with this service is just going to clog it up. Like what you were saying, it's just going to clog it up even more. And you're not actually going to get the results you want. But again, not to oversimplify things, those are four things that are pretty simple as long as we can attack each one, right? And to speak about the bowel movements, I think where this is kind of like taken place, um, shame on society, I'll say, in the very beginning
Yeah.
to be like, hey, almost ashamed of going to the bathroom, holding it in. All this kind of stuff is almost kind of like it was like shamed. And I think we need to talk more about it. Like, hey, like me and my wife, like when I first got with her, I'm like, hey, it's natural. It's okay. Go to the bathroom. Do not hold that in because that's like what I'm talking about with the lymphatic system being your sewage drainage, literally, right? In that essence, when we're talking about bowel movements, if you're holding it, then you're literally shooting all that toxin back into your system saying, no, this is not time to come out.
Right.
And then all that toxin just leaks in to your system. And then it starts to like have a reverse effect where then now you don't need to go as often. Now, you know what I mean? Everything starts kind of backing up from there. So I think it's really important for the listeners to understand like, hey, if you feel it, like, don't go with the old track pattern of like, hey, I'm going to not go. Go to the
Right.
bathroom.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
It is. And your body, loves being on a schedule. And, it's you've got to work with your body. You've got to learn your body, work together as a team with it. And, you know, a little bit of, my past info is when I first started into health and nutrition back in the 90s, I was actually dubbed the poop queen because that was my main conversation with every single client. And, through Hippocrates, we've learned, it's been ingrained into us that all disease begins in the gut, and that is something that we really, really need to take care of. And, there's once you really get into a good eating pattern and drinking your water and get some good lymphatic drainage, your poop shouldn't stink.
Mm,
It should be daily. You don't need to sit on the toilet for an hour. Basically, when I have to go, I go. I'm in there like a minute or two and I'm out and you would never even know it. I don't have to use a fan, nothing.
right. And move on.
Exactly, exactly. And, you feel better.
You do.
Really feel so much better. So it's not just getting clogged up. It's like what you said, it begins to leach and your body's trying to get rid of that stuff for a reason. It's not just fibers. It is toxins that your body is accumulating as those fibers are going down. It's trying to get it out of your body for a reason. And the
100%.
more we let it sit there, the more problems arise.
Yeah. It's the waste.
It is.
It's the waste, right?
It
And
is. Absolutely.
you're not eating 100% clean, which I'll be honest, I try, but there's so much processed stuff out
Right.
there. It's like you're
Sure.
going to get something processed in the hatch, you know? And so when you do that, there's always going to be extra waste, even
Oh,
more.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, even breathing in the air. I mean, that's all part of it as well. There's toxins all around us. There's no way of avoiding it. Even inside your house, it's some of the most toxic chemicals inside of our houses from the paints and the carpets and wood and everything else that's going on. So, you need to check off those lists as much as possible and mitigate where you can and just keep everything clean for, the things that you can't control.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the lymph. That's one way to get the lymph going, right? The two ways.
It is.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit more about the lymph for a second.
Let's do it. Let's
Okay,
talk.
for people who have no clue.
Yeah,
So the lymph is underneath the skin,
that's
like
right.
just underneath the skin.
Mhm.
We've always heard of lymph nodes. So
Sorry,
can
we got
you
lymph nodes here, right? We
Mhm.
got lymph nodes here. When you get sick, that's the ones that most people understand about, right? Because it gets
Right.
bulged out and sore. Your body's trying to fight the infection.
Yeah.
So it's literally filtering right there at the spot, trying to get rid of all that extra toxin,
Yeah.
right? Inflammation, all that. And then we have some lymph clusters here,
Hmm.
right? Um, I think women more than men feel these ones.
Right.
Um,
Underneath your breasts.
yep, correct. And then also like on the inner thigh
Mm-hmm.
area, that's actually the largest cluster of lymph nodes that we have,
Yeah.
which makes sense. I mean, that's the largest muscle group that we have, the legs, right? And
Right.
so right there by the you know, reproductive systems there, that's where we have the largest cluster.
Right.
Which
Now,
makes
how does the body get these toxins out of the body through the lymph system? How does that work?
well, like I said, those four things, that's how it does it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it does it. It does it through to get it out, there are only those four ways. Is breath, sweat, bowels, and urine. That's it. That's why it's so important. Again, not to overcomplicate it. It's like, so here's the one. Let's talk about sweat now.
Okay.
I know a ton of people that don't sweat. They just don't sweat that much. Maybe their bowels and their urine's great, but they're not sweating. Well, like you just said, the lymph's right under the skin. So if we're not sweating in the pores, then there's also a chance for the not even a chance. It will. The toxins won't get out. They
Yeah.
will stay in your body, right? And then now let's talk about breath for a second. Now with breath, a lot of people don't realize it, but when I say everybody's done the whole, you have a mirror and you breathe on the mirror and you see that moisture, right? That's the toxins coming out also. That's the waste that your body didn't take in with the breath.
Oh,
So
wow.
when we take a breath, that we get what we want, like eating. The
Right.
body takes what it needs, and then the excess is waste. Is waste. So that's why there was some uh concerns when we all had to wear masks for a long time within the medical field, within the scientific world. When you look at certain these things, it's like you want that breath to go out. You want it to go out. You don't want it to come back in. You don't want to recycle the breath
Yeah.
because it is the waste, right? So that those again, those are the four ways to get it out. And now it's just a matter of, okay, how can we provoke all four to have the healthiest system? And we can see people that have healthy systems, like you yourself. You look very healthy. I don't really know how old you are, but you look healthy. Your
Just
skin,
turned 57.
there you go. Your skin, your skin looks healthy,
Thank you.
right? My skin looks healthy when I'm don't have those four things because I'm not gonna pretend to be perfect. Then I will break out. There'll be times in my life where I'll break out when I'm not being diligent,
Mhm.
and that will happen. Now, when I do the regimen, like I just told you in the beginning of the show, when I do my life like that, clear as day,
Yeah.
no problem. I could even introduce extra toxins, but because I have all four of those ways to get them out in check, then I'm good.
Yeah. Interesting. Um, oh my gosh, there's just so much here to talk about, Jacob. Okay, so we're talking about detoxification and moving the lymph system along. The lymph system, doesn't have its own muscles. It doesn't have its way of getting things out all by itself necessarily. If we're just sitting on the couch watching Netflix 24/7,
Yeah.
it's relying on our movement.
You have to move.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Movement's big.
Yeah.
Movement is so huge.
Right.
Here's a hack for your people at home.
Hmm.
Um, since the legs are the largest muscle group, right? If we can set our butt up against a wall and put the legs up on the wall, that really helps the lymph drain
Yeah.
because it can get stagnant being in the lower limbs.
Hmm.
Get up, and I'm talking like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just allow gravity to take its course on there and drain. That will even help promote the lymph drainage.
And ladies, for you out there, that will also help to prevent some possibly reduce cellulite because, of course, cellulite is, part of that stagnant lymph kind of building up there. And it also activates the parasympathetic.
Yes.
So you're getting so many benefits with that one movement. That's great. And then do you dry brushing?
I don't do, when I say do, like, to me, when somebody says does, that's every day. I don't do it every day. I have in the past, I haven't in a while. Really good for the body again because the lymph, and it doesn't have to be hard, right? It's
Right.
just brush because that lymph is right under the skin
Yeah.
and just promoting. And you always want to do, which I'm sure you've already talked about on your shows, but you always want to do towards the core. You
Right.
don't really want to go away. You want to bring it to the lymph areas, the lymph node areas, right? Everything's coming in to the core.
Yeah. I love that. It's interesting to me how, the body is designed and how all of our lymph nodes are and towards the core, trying to get those toxins away from the organs. We don't have lymph nodes at the end of our fingertips. We can't just shake it off. It all goes in and we've got to get it out. Um, all right, let's move on a little bit
For
to
sure.
breath.
Okay. Yeah.
There, you and I have talked a little bit about breath, and it is so interesting to me about how, you say we're breathing out the toxins. I just learned that we also can breathe out fat cells.
Hmm.
What?
Sure. Yeah, well, because it's excess fat, right? Like excess fat is toxin, really. If the body's not using it right, it's not protein, it's fat. It's fat. It's excess that the body is using for storage. And so again, it goes hand in hand with the lymph system, right? Like if we're breathing properly, we're gonna be getting rid of that extra toxin that was in the fat cell out, which will thus reduce the fat cell. Um, but with the breath, if you don't mind, because I do love action, can we all just take a breath?
I was just going to suggest that. Can you just walk us through a good breath, how to get that good breath?
Okay. There's lots of different schools of thought. So let's just do this one because it'll be easier for most people. Because some people have issues breathing through the nose.
Hmm.
So let's just take one in. And what it is, what I always like to do first is I roll the shoulders and I get relaxed. Because if you don't and you go to take a rushed breath, you actually can run a risk of kind of tightening a muscle in your neck connected to your shoulder and like kink it in a weird way.
Yeah.
And so when you're going to take a breath, it's just conscious. We're not going to try to take a rushed breath. It's just kind of a diaphragmic breath, right? Right under the solar plex here. And it's just, we're just going to draw it in and then we're just going to let it go.
Okay.
Ready?
Uh-huh.
Here we go. Yeah. Like that's it. And if we could take a series of those conscious breaths in a row, man, you all of a sudden start becoming more aware of your breath and then just of the present moment.
Right.
Right? Think about it since we've been talking, we haven't really taken a moment to,
To breathe.
ah,
Yeah.
man, I feel,
Especially when you're outdoors.
huh?
Especially when you're outdoors.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I
Anytime you feel stressed, just,
really,
ah,
yeah. I think so much of our society, we are in such a fast paced world right now that people forget to breathe.
oh,
And I mean, I know I have been in situations where, like, maybe I'm standing in line or something and there's a lot of chaos going on. I actually find myself holding my breath unintentionally and I don't even realize it.
yep.
Or you're taking shallow breaths, and that's harming our bodies in so many ways. I mean, not just with getting rid of toxins, but also your lungs aren't working to capacity. And so then when you really need them, that elasticity is not there.
Check this out. You just sparked something in my mind. So when you're in that situation, I'm going to talk about stress in a moment because that's what happens. There's a couple things that happen with the body in stressful situations, which you named one. Um, but when we don't take deep breaths, we are robbing our system of what it needs. We're robbing it,
Yeah.
right? By being in that moment. And so, stressful situations, the body does two things subconsciously. I have to say subconscious because even when I talk to somebody who's apparently conscious in front of me,
Uh-huh.
and I say that, they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah," and it's like, "No, no, no, really, just take a second to like hear what I just said." Body does two things in stress. It'll hold its breath subconsciously, right, and it'll tighten up
Hmm.
subconsciously, right.
Yeah.
And so, what can we do? This is one of the things that we teach people when they come in to do the whole body cryo, because it is still a stress. It's considered a good stress.
Hmm.
It's considered a eustress. You look that up.
Okay.
It's eustress. It's the opposite of distress, but it's still stress nonetheless. And so, since it's stress, the body subconsciously will hold its breath, right? And tighten up. So, what you noticed in the store there, totally valid. And how many people are walking around daily in their car, white knuckling it, just
Hmm.
not realizing that they're white knuckling
Yeah.
it and holding their, and then somebody cuts them off, ah, ah, because that's a stress response, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, we have to learn how to combat stress. I just told you two of the main things that the body does: holds its breath and tightens up. So what can we do? Not to complicate it, but what can we do? Consciously breathe
Right.
when we feel that stress and relax, right? We relax the muscles consciously. This is the best way I know, is to bring the shoulders up and let them go, because it's the closest to the head. So if
Mhm.
we can bring the shoulders to our ears and then let them drop, just take a breath or two and be like, okay, yeah, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Get that hit of oxygen, right? You get your body, you also get a hit. Um, this is what you get a hit of. You get a hit of taking over your autonomic nervous system when you take a conscious breath.
Right.
When you take an in breath, that's the sympathetic nervous system that you're taking
Mhm.
over. And when you consciously breathe out, it's the parasympathetic nervous system. So think, breathing out's a brake pedal, parasympathetic, parachute, parasympathetic, right? Brake pedal, and then sympathetic gas,
Yeah.
right? So depending on how often you take over your breath work, then you can take over your autonomic nervous system.
I
How
love
amazing.
that. I love that. I'm a little bit of a nerd without being so scientific in the nerdy world. But I did a little bit of a study in neurobiology about that very thing, and with breathing. And that, that's really kind of taking over the limbic system a little bit. It's kind of, your brain, your body is like you said, that gas pedal is on, it's moving forward, and you're overriding what your brain is trying to tell you
Mhm.
when you take that breath and you consciously
Yes.
drop those shoulders. You're telling your brain, it's okay. Everything is okay. And because your brain is trying to tell your body what to do, but at the same time, it's looking to your body to know what to do.
Yep.
And so you can override it. And I find that so fascinating. And I will use that like at night sometimes when I'm going to bed and my mind is just like chattering about all of the things I have to do tomorrow or the things that happened earlier today. And it's like
Mm,
you just have to take those deep breaths, say,
you.
it's time to go to bed. It's time
It
to go to sleep.
So check this out. In that, you're absolutely right. In that analogy that you used, well, it wasn't really an analogy. It happened to you at a store.
Mm-hmm.
You witnessed it and gave the account here. When we are holding our breath, we're not, well, sometimes we do hold our breath completely,
Right.
but you said it also, it's shallow breathing.
Yes.
So because we do still need oxygen, and the body and the brain, the autonomic system still knows that and will take
Mhm.
in just enough to keep you in survival,
Right.
not to thrive, just survive, right? Think about this though. When you're in that moment of stress where you are shallow breathing subconsciously, the body, the autonomic system's doing it. You have the gas pedal on more than you have the brake because it's shallow breathing. So it's
Mm-hmm.
quick, bam,
Right.
bam, gas pedal, gas pedal, gas pedal, gas pedal, right in the, and the gas exchange in your body is not correct. So
Right.
that's when you take over the system also. Remember, parasympathetic, if you want to slow down your heart rate, if you want to lower your blood pressure, concentrate on the out breath.
Right.
So you still need the in, but then ooh,
Yes.
could ride that breath out to its fullest, and then take in another breath and maybe just relax if you don't want to
Right.
continue in with that. But like when you're about to go to sleep, if you focus on the out breath more, That'll
Mhm.
lower your blood pressure, lower your heart rate, you fall right to sleep.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Um, is people I've had clients say, will I hyperventilate if I'm doing this? There is no worry of hyperventilating, taking slow, deep breaths. Have you ever had any kind of problems with anybody getting dizzy or sick or anything from deep breathing?
No, not as long as you have a good cadence and a good
Mm.
rhythm. Just because we are talking about breath, I'll demonstrate hyperventilation and what that looks like.
Just don't
One of
tell me.
uh, I know I've been doing the breathing for like 6 years, so
Okay.
I know it, but I want to show because it is extreme. So
Yeah.
the one variation of extreme is actually again what you said in the grocery store. When we're in a stress state long enough, think about when people have those attacks. It's in a stressed situation. It's because the oxygen and the carbon dioxide exchange is not correct,
Right.
right? And so you have more carbon dioxide, I believe, in the system than you have out
Hmm.
or vice versa. I don't know. I don't want to get that. But anyways, when you are just breathing that shallow breathing, that is a form of hyperventilation. So a lot of your listeners probably hyperventilate on a daily, lightweight,
Interesting.
lightweight hyperventilation in stressful situations, right? If I'm breathing like this over time, that'll be a hyperventilation.
Yeah.
Now here's an extreme version of it. Let's say I feel that feeling of hyperventilation, and now I get panicked, and I know deep down I need air.
Yeah.
So if I start going like this, that's gonna induce hyperventilation also
Right.
over
Right.
over time. But if you're just consciously going, okay, I'm gonna draw a breath in, and I'm gonna draw another one. Very different. I could do that all day.
Yeah.
Literally do that all day. Now, what might happen if I'm not used to it, I could get a little heady,
Hmm.
get a little heady, but I'll never lose consciousness.
Yeah.
If as long as I'm keeping that slow cadence like that, never will I lose consciousness. I'll just be getting deeper into my body if you want to know the truth of it. It's
Yeah.
kind of Wim Hof teaches.
Yeah.
It's like essentially like that. Like once you feel tingly in your fingertips and your nose or your lips and that kind of stuff, okay, now you're so full of oxygen, you could probably cool it for a minute.
No, I love that, and yeah, I love his teachings too, and I encourage you guys all to look him up. Wim Hof, amazing, amazing information there. Yeah, there's oh my gosh, Jacob, there is so much
You
there.
didn't really tap into the cold yet.
I know, I know. Okay, so let's jump over there
Mhm.
and let's talk about cold, then hot, and then the contrast therapy of doing them both.
Okay,
Do that?
sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. So
no, go ahead.
before we get into cryotherapy, just what is cold therapy?
So cold therapy, well, cryotherapy in particular, the word cryo means sub-zero.
Right.
From Europe means sub-zero. So sub-zero temperatures therapy, meaning therapeutic, right? So we're using the cold for therapeutic value, which dates back since the beginning of time, right? I mean, if you think about it, like if we need to numb something, ice was the first thing to do that, right? You just
Mhm.
put ice on the area for 30 minutes and that's going to numb that area. And then you can do whatever you need to get done. It's going to reduce inflammation. Those two things, nobody's going to argue with you on like that. Those are just facts.
Mhm.
Um, and so when we talk about cryotherapy, that's what we're talking about. Now, whole body cryotherapy was created to help with autoimmune diseases, namely RA, rheumatoid arthritis, which is inflammation of the joints. And I think your listeners know, but if they don't, basically, and I'm not an expert at this, but basically, autoimmune diseases can be chalked up to the body attacking itself.
Mhm.
It's essentially what autoimmune diseases, how they came about. It's basically the body is like, fighting itself and then causing inflammation of the joints, of the muscles, it's a big ball of inflammation. So this doctor created this in Japan in 1978. So it's been around for some time.
Yeah.
And he created it because um, he knew the benefits of cold, right? He's trying to figure out a way that would be the most comfortable way to get the benefits of cold on a whole body scale.
Okay.
So we already know that like an ice bath will work on your body, your mind on a whole body scale also, but it's super painful. It's uncomfortable. It's miserable. I mean, whatever word you want to attach to pain and discomfort, that's pretty much an ice bath,
Yeah.
right? And you need to do it for like anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes to get the effects full bodily.
Mm-hmm.
And for these autoimmune patients that this doctor was seeing, the ice bath actually hurt them because the blood still tried to pump through the aching joints, and the
Right.
blood still does try to pump through your aching joints because that's what the body wants to do. The body's always trying to get the blood through your veins, right? Through your vascular system to every area.
Yeah.
And since it's 39 to like 45 degrees in an ice bath, then the body and the brain still thinks it can pump blood to those areas, which is painful. That's part
Yeah.
of the pain.
Yeah.
So he created this whole body machine, basically super sub-zero degree temperatures, right? Like we're getting, we can get all the way to 185 below. Now, I say that because, not to scare anybody, I think they did a bad job at telling people that cold without literally explaining what's going on. It's dry. So when
Right.
we say that, that means that it feels like a cloud, like it feels like a walk-in freezer.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't feel like anything heavy on your body.
Right.
And it's just surface cold
Right.
because what we're doing is we're literally cooling the surface temperature of our skin. We have thermoreceptors all over our skin, which is constantly feeling the atmosphere around us, sending a signal to our brain to then regulate our body temperature, right? That's
Right.
just how it works. So when we get it extremely cold, since it's negative degrees, and it doesn't start out at that negative 185. As a matter of fact, most people only get to like 130 below. But even then, that's cold. It's very cold. But we start out at like negative 40, which again, very cold, but it really doesn't feel like anything worse than a walk-in freezer. Or I've heard people say being naked in the snow. Don't know how they know that, but that's what it's been attributed to. Also, it just feels kind of crisp, but not heavy, right? And so it starts there. And when the thermoreceptors feel that, they deal with it right away because it's not that crazy, even though it's negative 40.
Yeah.
Then the temperature continues to drop. Now, this is where the brain and the body have a conversation and they go, hey, this keeps getting colder. The part is important for getting the benefits of this cold therapy, this cryotherapy.
Yeah.
Remember that we have the 3 minutes or less, right? So in this moment or in these moments, as it gets colder, the thermoreceptors send a signal to the brain, says, hey, tell the heart to stop pumping blood out to all these areas. Like you need to hold it all to the core right now. You
Right.
need all the blood stay with all of the organs right now. And it's nothing you have to think about. See, again, we try to overcomplicate it. People are nervous to come in because they're like, well, what happens if my body doesn't do that? Well, it's like, no, it will do it. We'll do it. Like, there's no question. Like,
You have other issues going on if it doesn't do that.
for sure. Yeah. Then you got something totally different going on. Yeah. But for sure, like, it will do it. It's just a response, right?
Right.
And so when it does that, then all of a sudden, your brain goes, okay, well, then the body needs help right now because we don't know how long we're going to deal with this cold. Even though I just told you it's 3 minutes or less,
Right.
if we were to take the head off the body doesn't know time. Body doesn't know time.
Yeah.
And so the body keeps freaking out, essentially, talking to the brain saying, hey, I need the pharmaceuticals. I need the drugs that you have to help relieve pain and inflammation because the tool we're using again is cold, right? And then it drops a whole bunch of other really good drugs also, like norepinephrine, which is the opposite of epinephrine, which is adrenaline, right? EpiPen, adrenaline. So then we're getting anti-adrenaline, which if you think about adrenaline, fast, everything's
That gas pedal you were talking about.
Yeah, you do get a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But then once you're done, you get the opposite of that also. You get that like, ooh, like this come down, the opposite of adrenaline, which is amazing.
Yeah.
You get dopamine hit, right? You get serotonin, which is gonna help you sleep. You get the cortisol drop, right? Cortisol will literally be lower. That's the stress hormone. That
Mm.
gets lowered. And ultimately, obviously, inflammation and pain, but you literally feel lighter when you
Right.
get out of this.
Yeah.
You feel way better.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the fact that it is only 3 minutes. And I mean, you get your shiver on. You're, you get that shiver on. And that shiver, from my understanding, is what is really making all of these things happen. And that's like one of the goals of any kind of cryo or even cold therapy is to get that shiver.
Uh,
Uh
I'm going to stop you momentarily there on that one.
okay. Uh-oh, what did I say wrong?
No, it's not wrong.
Okay.
It's there's just well, I'm gonna explain it out. So there's
Uh-huh.
shiver thermogenesis. That's your body's way of the tiny muscle fibers um, tightening up and contracting, expanding, contracting to warm your body up,
Okay.
to warm your body up. And then there's non-shiver thermogenesis,
Okay.
non-shiver thermogenesis. Now, depending on what you're trying to achieve, some people may not want shiver thermogenesis. And there's a way to override that deep within yourself to have non-shiver thermogenesis,
Really?
which non-shiver thermogenesis is where you're tapping in now to your brown fat, or you're
Right.
trying to create brown fat,
Right.
which
See,
is
I thought
shiver.
shivering created the brown fat.
No,
No.
no.
Oh my gosh, Jacob, keep telling.
Yeah. No, yeah, yeah. No, no, look it up, write it down. Yeah, because this is one of the things that blew my mind also.
Yeah.
So there's two ways that the body tries to warm up in cold if you're gonna be there for a long time. And that's what WIM teaches on too, is like the shiver thermogenesis and the non-shiver thermogenesis. Non-shiver, what we're talking about is you're you're actually relaxing the body because part of shiver thermogenesis, you're a little tense, you're a little tight. And so everything's kind of, and that's one way that the body warms itself up. But the other way the body warms itself up is non shiver thermogenesis, which is now you're putting all the energy to your brown fat production. And then the brown fat is what is basically a white fat cell that has mitochondria infiltrated into it, right? And the mitochondria that's infiltrated into it, the way that it creates energy is it feeds on white fat, and the byproduct is heat. So non-shiver thermogenesis is brown fat consuming white fat producing heat. And third, right? Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And shiver thermogenesis is literally those muscles firing to create the byproduct of heat.
right. See, when it drops 10 degrees here at Napa, I'm doing the shiver. It doesn't take much for me to shiver. Now, how do you tap into the non-shiver thermogenesis?
You've got to go so deep. You know, we have like three parts of the brain. I mean, there's more, but like you have the neocortex. I can't remember the middle, like the emotional side, that kind of stuff. And then you have the deepest part of the brain.
Mhm.
What some people call like the lizard brain. Have you heard that?
No.
Yeah, I don't know the scientific term, but basically it's like eat, sleep, drink. It's like the very essential. It's also the part that has like the drugs I was talking about.
Right.
It's also
Mhm.
that same
Okay.
area of the brain,
Okay.
deepest part attached right to the brain stem. Okay. And so that is the part where it's almost like, do you meditate?
I do.
So if you were able to shut out the feeling of being cold, even though you're cold,
Mhm.
but go so deep in your brain where you're able to just relax and just go, like basically submitting. You're
Yeah.
submitting your body to the cold. You would see is if as long as you were in that meditative state, obviously you have to have some breath work when you're in the meditative state to like stay there.
Yes.
As long as you have that, you will notice the shiver drops off. I've literally had people in my chamber go, "Duh, duh, 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 duh," and like coached them through it, and they were able to just no more shivering.
Yeah. Yes, I can do that when it's, 60. I told you I start shivering. I can like get into that. No, I have to say, when I have done cryotherapy, I can do that at the beginning and I'm totally fine for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. but then it just goes beyond what my meditative body could
I know.
handle. I need you in that room to coach me through it.
And I would do it. I would gladly do it because it's kind of cool,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of cool that we're able to be like, wait, no, there's no way I can stop the shivering. It's like, no, actually, you can. And it's not saying that it's bad. Like if a person wants to shiver, because there is some talk about the metabolic exchange there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're burning calories like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Think about all the fibers that are.
Yeah.
That's why I said that. That's why when you had originally said, I'm like, it's not like it's wrong. Like there's just two ways that the body warms up, you
Right.
know, and those are the two ways on that, right? If we didn't have a heater or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people want that because they want to burn it that way.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The bigger the folks are, the less they shiver. They want to shiver,
Yes.
but they've got so much of that extra, right? They got a lot of brown fat going on, but it's actually good for them too because they're getting that brown fat working. And if they continue to work on that, then the brown fat would eventually consume the white fat over time.
Right. Right. Now, there's a lot of other benefits to cold therapy, or cryotherapy and cold therapy that, I was kind of looking into as I was getting ready for the podcast, getting into talking about, it improves thyroid function, fat loss, which we already talked about, increases oxygen, insulin sensitivity, overall body resilience, leptin sensitivity. There is so much that happens. Do you have any, and I don't know if you do or not, do you have any amazing testimonials that you've gotten from clients or even yourself where you have seen a whole metabolic change in a person after a while of doing this?
100%. Yeah. Now, like the biggest one I can think of is this person got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes
Mhm.
and they were changing their eating habits also. But this was been a struggle for years.
Yes.
And they said they didn't really change their eating much. They said I changed a little bit, but not much. They came in, I want to say it was 3 times a week.
Mhm.
They still come in. So 3 times a week for, gosh, it's been like 2 years now.
Wow.
But I want to say that basically they got rid of the tag of being type 2 diabetic after like type 2 diabetic. I want to say it's the
Wow.
third month of coming in. And then that's actually, so I started doing a little bit of research. It's still so beyond me, but I think the only thing I can really say is it helps somehow when that part of the brain I'm talking about releases something that helps your body, sorry about that, actually get, to consume sugar the way it should, like digest sugar the way it should, the glycosamines in the blood,
Mhm.
they're actually able to do what they're supposed to do based on a hormone that's dropped from that deeper part of the brain. Do not know how the cold does that, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, it's been noted to for sure.
Yeah. Okay, that's like really interesting to me. And of course, athletes have been using this for eons for, repairing their muscles, wounds, inflammation, all of those good kind of things. So we know those. Now let's talk a little bit about the hot therapy or the infrared sauna. There's a lot of different things, and you guys, I'll tell you right now, like Dr. Rhonda Patrick, if you guys listen to Find My Fitness podcast, she talks a lot about heat shock proteins and gets really deep into the nerdy side. We're talking infrared, which is a little bit different than what she's talking. It doesn't get us hot, but it offers so many more benefits because of the infrared spectrum, which infrared is also the same thing that near infrared is what the sun produces and gives your body and feeds your mitochondria, which I'm completely addicted to infrared therapy. Um, let's touch on a little bit of what the infrared therapy is doing and the sauna, the heat, the infrared, all of this, what it's doing for the body.
Yeah, I try and again not to overcomplicate it.
Exactly.
The number one thing it does is detox, and everybody goes, "Yeah," you know, but like
I sweat, yeah.
yeah, let's not like raise over that. Again, getting back to the lymph system, right? And that's another benefit because if you're detoxing, then we're talking about the lymph. So your lymph system helping your lymph move,
Yeah.
right? But if we don't understand that, like, what happens if that was the only benefit?
Yeah.
What happens if detoxification was it? Like, right? So that's where it's like, man, like that's the most powerful reason why it's so good. Because it's basically like you said, it's not like a traditional sauna. And to kind of describe it to listeners that maybe haven't done it, it feels like the warmth of the sun. You kind of said that, right? It feels like the warmth of the sun. So it's not like that one time you were in Tahoe and you're hammered with your friends, and then you go in the sauna at night and like you literally got out 5 minutes later and you felt like you're gonna die.
Yeah.
That is not this.
Right. And this is dry,
Yes.
correct?
Oh yeah, this is dry. And it feels like you're getting hugged by the sun, right? It just feels like you're getting just hugged by the sun. You don't even sweat until what, 10, 15 minutes being in there? What's
Uh,
yours?
yeah, we're at about 10, 15 minutes, depending on the heat level. But yeah, I mean, it typically gets up to like 145, 147 heat, and it takes a few minutes.
Yeah, even in starting there, right? Like you've been in
Yeah.
there started at like 145 and
Yeah.
like your body won't you just won't sweat. And one of the reasons why, and that's one of the reasons why I believe infrared's more impactful than traditional, you're able to stay longer.
Yeah.
So you're able to pull toxins that are deep bedded into the system and pull them out rather than a traditional sauna. Again, those thermoreceptors I was talking about with the cold
Hmm.
feels how stinking hot a traditional is. And immediately, so opposite of how to warm up your body knows how to cool itself down in sweating. And so it'll throw off a sheen of sweat, just a superficial, just almost like the lymph system just pops a little bit just to allow a barrier to cool your body down because it's so stinking hot.
Yeah.
Where the infrared tricks your body again and like kind of boils you like a frog in a pot, boils you. And I know it's a bad analogy, but it's kind of true, right? It's kind of true because you're in it and you're like, okay, it's all good. And all of a sudden, once you start sweating, man, that sweat is so deep. It's pulling so deep and like, man, stuff you didn't even know you had in there is just bubbling out. And it just, you get out of that thing feeling refreshed
Yeah.
because you don't have the toxins that you just had, which again is huge detoxification, right? In doing that, though, when you detox, there's other things we can talk about too. And this is where everybody wants to talk about benefits, which is true. But that's why I said let's not graze over the detoxification because in detoxification, you will get pain relief,
Yeah.
right? So that's
It's
one of the
true.
benefits. You will get pain relief.
Totally.
Your
Hmm.
circulation will get better because your blood is pumping. You get the vasodilation, which I would like to talk about vasoconstriction too,
Okay.
if we have time, in the cold. But
Mhm.
you get the vasodilation, so the blood's flowing. Um, should be breathing in there,
Yeah.
relaxing. The warm is gonna relax your muscles.
Yeah.
So you get like if you have muscle spasms, infrared's super good to get into. Will lower your blood pressure. Not quite sure scientifically how that part works, but I would guess it has something to do with that detoxification process. The toxin buildup in your body puts stress on your body. And when you have stress, everything goes up, right? Gas pedal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, it is absolutely amazing. And again, I did, a little bit of research before we started this. And one of the things that I really love, and it's you get a lot of this from the sunshine, but I mean, you have to be out in the sun with as much skin exposure as possible with, you know, that's kind of hard to do unless you live on a beach. But your body is releasing the dopamine, it's releasing oxytocin, which you guys, oxytocin, I'm sure you're all familiar with, Oxycontin and all these other things. Those are the pharmaceutical drugs. Your body creates oxytocin, which is your very own pain reliever.
Mm,
And I mean, how powerful is that? There have been studies that show when people are spending more time getting those infrared rays, they get over sickness faster.
oh, for sure.
If they get injured, they heal faster. Their pain tolerance is higher. And so, I mean, you can't fight that. Of course, serotonin, endorphins, it boosts your collagen. So it's one of the best things that you can do, ladies, if you're wanting to avoid Botox, like I'm trying my hardest to avoid that. Helps to balance out cortisol. levels. There's so many different things that it can do. And like you said, is it the heat? Is it your body's mechanisms? There's so many deep, deep, deep areas that, is up for discussion there, but it is powerful and it's simple. And one tip, if you guys go do a sauna, don't take your phone in there. I mean, first of all, you need that time to relax, but I don't think most phone batteries can handle 145 degrees for a half hour of time. And Jake will not be responsible for your phone at times. Do you have any other tips for the sauna?
Um, for the sauna, namely, no, I mean, just get in there. You know what I mean? I've heard a
Water.
lot yeah, a lot of water. You have to have the water going in.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good point for your lymphatic system to work properly. If you think about those 4 ways to get it out, they all involve water, bowels included. They all involve water.
Yeah.
So if you don't have enough flushing,
Uh-huh.
you have enough flushing material in there, then you're not going to flush very well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, need the water for sure.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I could say is that one of the things that people goes, oh, I don't know, I don't really like the heat. I also get that with the cold. I don't really like the cold. I think this is one of the things I want to talk about was the sometimes we got to change our mindset.
Yeah.
Like if we don't have allergic reactions, and there are some things, like I believe I spoke with you, you might be allergic to the cold, maybe.
Right.
But there are some serious things where okay, you should avoid the hot, you should avoid the cold, right? Whatever those certain things are. But we're talking about, I want to say less than 5% of the population,
Right.
really. Like we're talking about a very small number of folks that are actually allergic to those things. Now, what we all do is we create stories in our minds based on past experiences, right? So maybe we had a bad experience with the traditional sauna.
Right.
We got heat exhaustion maybe in another time. Whatever the case is, leads up to this narrative that we tell people, which is, oh, I don't do good with the hot or whatever. Or maybe it was with the cold, right? Opposite with the cold. You got pushed into a pool at a party or cold all night. I don't know what it is, but I do know this. I do know that deep embedded, we tell our past experiences and that becomes our narrative to today. And in order to see real change happen and experience the benefits of vasoconstriction, which I do want to touch on, and vasodilation, then we need to experience the cold and the hot in short bursts. Because, like I mentioned earlier, it's a eustress, it's a good stress. We have so much distress and chronic stress in the world. We need some of this eustress.
Right.
So we need to get out and think a little bit outside our minds and go, okay, I'm going to deal with this is the word everybody loves, uncomfortable. I'm going to deal with the uncomfortable because that's really what it is at the end of the day. When people say that, they're
Yeah.
just comfortable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think
As you do.
I'm uncomfortable with it too. I
Yeah.
don't like the cold. I don't like the heat, but I deal with it because I
Yeah.
understand the benefits.
Right. And our bodies do have a way of becoming adapted. We can be cold adapted, we can be heat adapted. And, I am one of those people who years ago, um, I was, I did acting for a while and I was down in South Miami in the middle of like 100 and something degree day. We didn't have anything but just regular spring water to drink. And even then it was like little sips and, somebody come and take it away from us. And I started going through heat exhaustion and, didn't really catch it. Went from a headache to a migraine to throwing up to getting dizzy and almost passing out. And, when all of that was going on, and I had lived in South Florida for 30 years, you would think that I would had been used to that. Um, I started realizing I've got to get my body better heat adapted and what's going on. And so that's when I really start getting into doing sauna usage and things like that because, that's telling me my body is needing something. There's something that's not working quite right. And you know what? I go into the sauna 145 degrees and I know my sweet spot. And, that's at 30 minutes, 31, 32 minutes, and then cooling off slowly. But I didn't start there. I started at 115 degrees for 15 minutes. and slowly build up. And I'd watch my body. I drink, coconut water, which has electrolytes, constantly while I'm in there. I get the least little bit thirsty. That's my body's sign of saying, hello, feed me, And it's, I'm determined to do the same thing with the cryotherapy. Um, there's something in my brain that's just like, no, no, no. But I'll get there.
More people are scared of the cold. And I'm glad that you shared that people when you're being vulnerable, because I think that'll encourage people.
Yeah.
I think it'll encourage people to just take the step in the direction, especially if they really want to get the benefits um, of the hot and the cold, which when you say the benefits, it's like overall health. It's
Mhm.
overall longevity, right? If you think about, if we're able to get inflammation out and toxins out, well, then you don't have inflammation and toxins in, so your body's not fighting so hard to maintain.
Right.
Well, that's where a lot of us are. But if you start dealing, there's that word again, with the cold and the hot, then your body will start to, your brain will release those drugs that it makes all on its own. You don't need to take the pharmaceuticals of those specific things, right? That your body makes.
Right.
You just need to deal with the uncomfortable things which produce the response in your body to signal to your brain to release them.
Right.
It's not just in the hatch, right? It's like you have to deal with these things in order to get the goods, the real goods,
Yeah.
that your body specifically made for you
Yeah.
and me, each
Right.
individual.
Right. Yeah, we are just such a comfortable society, and we weren't designed to have food available to us 24/7, to have our temperatures regulated 24/7. We went through fasting and famine and feasting, and we went through all of these things, eons ago. We went through radical temperature changes where the only thing you had to do was, put a fur on your body or something just to stay warm. Um, we're our bodies are designed for that, and we're not giving it that ability to do those things. And I think that's what's creating so much of our dis-ease
It is. You're
today.
right. And so that's a great segue into vasoconstriction and why it's important with the
Yes. And let's do that as we talk about cold and hot, because you want to get into vaso and yep.
yeah. This
Okay.
is actually the biggest benefit to doing both
Uh-huh.
together. You get the vasoconstriction with the cold, right? Now, vasoconstriction, so the vascular system, I had to pull it up. I had to look at it again because I literally am blown away every time I look at that number. Yeah, I knew it in my mind, but I had to see it. So Wim Hof, when I had a conversation with him, I had met him years ago. And you can look him up. He says this all the time. He says the blood vessels. So when you get vasoconstriction, you're squeezing the blood vessels, all these millions of tiny little muscles, kind of the ones that are responsible for the shivering also, will clamp down on the blood vessels and shoot the blood to the core, like I was saying
Mhm.
before. Okay. There is over 60,000 feet of blood vessels in each one of our body. That is enough to circle the globe more than 2 times.
That's amazing. That is just wild.
Insane. Below, every time I think about it, I'm like, holy moly. Like, think about a football field.
Yeah.
That's nothing. That's a fraction.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, not even a fraction, a fraction
Yeah.
of you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. So the reason why it's important now is, what about people that have heart disease? What
Mhm.
about people that have all these diseases, like you're saying? Most oftentimes, it has to do with the blood vessels in one way or another, the circulatory system, one way or another, how the blood gets from point A to point B. There's plaque buildup. There's all these things that happen within those systems where the blood is so hard pressed to get pushed through there, right? Through the blood vessels. So the heart's working harder to push the blood. When you get the vasoconstriction over time, that's the only thing. The cold is the only thing that you'll get that squeeze on that system. It is the only thing. I'm going to repeat that. Cold therapy is the only thing that will get vasoconstriction, which is the vaso tightening, right?
Right.
Can break up plaque, can break up all these things that are clogging up the arteries,
Mhm.
the veins. And then how's it going to get out? Well, the body has filters for that, right? It's got
Yeah.
liver, kidneys, lymph system, right? It's got all these ways to get it out. But if you're always vasodilation, which is a lot of us where we're at, because like you said, temperature control, all these things, we're always dilated.
And coffee.
Oh man, we're always, oh yeah, we're always, our pipes are like this big.
Right.
And then you're getting that squeeze and all the muscles are learning how to work. So then when you feel cold outside, they go, oh, I know what to do. Tightens it up. Bam,
Mm.
tighten, right? So then what's cool is you get the tightening and you go into the heat afterwards, man, blows it right back up and look at it as a big flush,
Yeah.
right? So you're tightening it up. You imagine like a I don't even know. It's like I keep going back to the toilet thing. I'll get off that. But it's a lymph system. I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like you're literally cleaning your whole system out. It's like a fresh cleanse and a workout.
Yeah.
It's a workout for your vaso system.
That's that's a really good way of putting it. I love that. And yeah, I mean, I can just see, instead of doing the toilet, we'll just look at like a bathroom sink, it's all clogged up and you take Drano or something and pour it down and just
Mm.
so it takes everything out. Um, Now, what if Jacob, somebody doesn't have access to cryotherapy or even a sauna? Is there, anything that they can do at home for this?
Yeah. So they do make infrared blankets,
Hmm.
which are pretty inexpensive that you can start with for the infrared spectrum. Of course, people have different thoughts of this. Low doses of sun exposure, I don't believe are terrible. As
No,
long as you're lathered up and you got your sunscreen on, all that. I think that would be a good low cost way.
I'll have to argue with you on that one. Just from a standpoint, you put sunscreen on, you're blocking those infrared lights.
I agree, but I just didn't. I want to be sensitive. Yeah, in case somebody got. I don't. You know what I mean? I would sometimes, but oftentimes we forget. We just don't do it a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Just let it flow. But short bursts of sun, I think, would be great.
Mhm.
Um, and then as far as the cold goes, kind of like what you were saying with diving in, and you can do this at home yourself, to kind of build that tolerance, because you use that word, and that's big. That is correct. We need to build tolerance in order to get and deal with the benefits of
Yeah.
cold and heat. So for the cold side of it, you could even start. This is really good for people that have cold hands. So really, if people have cold hands or cold feet, it's a circulatory disorder.
Mhm.
It is like your blood should be going to the tips of your areas, but the reason why they're not is because they're the furthest from the heart,
Right.
and the heart is having a hard time pushing blood to those areas because you've been dilated so long. It's time to get some constriction on that,
Yeah.
right? So you can even do an ice bowl of water at home, and sit your fingers in there. Do a minute at first and go, whoo, man, it's cold. I don't want to do it, man. Jacob guy was insane, you know? We go back to it the next day and do another minute. You know what I mean? And then go, man, that was crazy. And then maybe the next day go, well, I'm gonna do try a minute and 10 seconds or something. You know what I mean? And you start kind of building this tolerance. Mark my words, if somebody really did what I just said there and they have cold hands and they do it progressively over, I would even say 2 week time period, build up, they're going to notice that their fingertips are not cold anymore.
Yeah. It's interesting because even, like, I know if somebody's having, like, an atrial fibrillation kind of moment or attack, one of the first things that's recommended is to get a bowl of ice water and splash your face.
Hmm. Can also do
That's
that. Yeah. I
yeah,
just started with the hands. I was trying to be light, but
yeah,
yes, you get
yeah,
your face into a bowl of water, splash cold water on your face. I mean, the more that you introduce yourself to cold and start just kind of dealing with it, right? A cold shower, everybody knows that feeling,
yeah.
right? I think everybody can attest to being out of hot water at one point or another
Mhm.
because of the luxury of what we have
Yeah,
nowadays. And you feel it and you're like, you get that, oh, taking your breath away. That's vasoconstriction. That's a extreme form of it, but you're getting that.
yeah,
And the more you can kind of get that and deal with short bouts and learn how to relax through it,
yeah.
man, your body is gonna thrive.
Yeah. Now speaking of that in the shower, like I will do hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold after my shower. Is that giving me benefit?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're just like priming your lymph system with that.
Yeah.
You're like flushing it, like moving it. Think about you're going cold, you get a vasoconstriction, right? And then
Mhm.
you're getting hot, vasodilation, vasoconstriction, vasodilation. So you're getting this like squeeze going throughout your entire 60,000 feet.
Feet. That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. So me doing that, is there a certain amount of time I should spend with each one, with the cold and with the hot at the end of the shower?
I don't know that, to be honest. I don't know. I think, like I said, I mean, if somebody's just experimenting, man, as soon as your body's thermoreceptors feel the cold, it happens.
Yeah.
Now, how long you want it to happen, that's like in a gym, like how much contraction are you getting? You know what I mean? Are you going to squeeze really hard at the top or whatever? So that's probably the duration.
Yeah.
But as far as like getting the benefits, even just to kind of get the ball rolling,
Yeah.
I just encourage anybody just to, hey, slip it on cold a little bit, not even crazy cold, because I don't want to give anybody a heart attack. Just, just a little bit. Go, ooh, that's cold. Now go back to your warm. And then kind of come back. Ooh, that's cold. And then come back. And then keep kind of jacking with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Test yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's perfect. And I am big into the vagal nerve. We've talked a little bit about that too. And it's really, you guys, a big part of knowing your body. And if you are already feeling stressed and that gas pedal is on full throttle, it might not be the best time to do one of these.
Mhm.
You got to sometimes listen to your body and say, okay, I need to kind of calm myself down, because you can throw yourself into an overdrive and your body will respond in a very like, I need to stop this now. You know, I read, actually Dave Osprey is a big, cold hot therapy person. And I was reading his story yesterday about when he first tried cold therapy. It was his first time, and he was in New York for a conference, and he was gonna do like an ice bath, but they didn't have the resources, and it was just a walk-in shower. So he did the next best thing, and he got all these ice packs, put them in Ziploc baggies, laid down on the bed, and threw ice packs all over himself. And he said he had read the protocol that he was only supposed to do it for like 30 seconds to a minute. And he fell asleep because his body did this shiver, and he fell asleep. And he was like that for like, I think a half hour or something. And he woke up with blisters
Oof.
all over his body. And his wife is an ER nurse. And she was like, you've got burns. Your body responded. It reacted. It didn't respond, it reacted.
Yeah.
And, he made a good point. He was like, just because it's good for you doesn't mean that you can throw yourself in full throttle. So you guys don't go filling up your bathtub with ice water and jump in for 30 minutes if you have never, ever, ever done that before.
Don't do that. Do not do that.
No.
That's one of the reasons why actually cryotherapy, I believe, is the safest. And I know it's the most comfortable way to get the benefits, because it's not, you don't run the risk of getting that burn on you,
Yeah.
because it's not something physical on you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's dry, it's not wet. And so you're able to just kind of tap out too in 30 seconds if you want.
Yeah.
With a technician's right there. And so it's like you feel the cold, okay, I'm good. Okay, then pop on
Yeah.
that.
I love that too. And I think it's important that people know, if you do cryotherapy, I know it's cryo-aid, and it should be this way if you go anywhere, that you always have a technician in the room with you.
You should.
Don't ever go in there alone.
No, you should. You should have a technician, and you should feel you everyone's gonna be nervous with the cold. Most everyone. Most everyone's nervous with the cold. And I feel like the ones that say they're not nervous are lying to me.
Either that or they're from, they're Eskimos.
Something. But I'm like, man, like you should be a little nervous going in. But like if you don't feel like you have the knowledge, definitely maybe not even like, no, definitely don't do it. If you don't feel comfortable, like as far as like the technician is there with you, explaining everything to you, letting you know what to do, you should have gloves on your hands. You should have socks and slippers on your feet. You should have the option of wearing underwear or not if you're female. If you're male, you've got to wear the underwear. But aside from that, you should have those precautionary things in place. Now, if something's out of whack there, then don't go in the machine.
Yeah, very good points, very valid points. Um, what about like just really, really, really fast because I know that you have a toddler that's waiting for you. Um, Little cryotherapy things that you can do, like, you've got cryo globes you can use under your eyes or cryo masks, things like that. That's kind of doing the same thing in a very moderate way
Yep.
that you can do on like a regular basis for all of us who again are looking for alternatives to Botox. So, okay, alternatives to Botox, cryotherapy. I mean, it's from the neck down. Is your face getting any of that benefit?
Not on that one, but we do offer the cryo skin toning facials.
There you go.
Yeah, it's warm and cold. It kind of looks like what's that one that they put on pregnant women? I always forget the name of it.
Like an ultrasound machine.
Thank you. It
Yeah.
looks like an ultrasound machine. It has the one coming off. It is directly applied to your skin. That'll absolutely help.
Yeah.
So we do have something for everyone. But like you said too, you could do some stuff at home. I mean, it's not going to get as cold as what we have at CryoAid, but every little bit honestly helps as long as you are taking it, like what you said, in moderation.
Yeah.
You're not just deep diving into an ice bath or just putting your face into cold. Okay, they said it. Boom, cold water for.
Right.
I mean, you're going to shock your system in a bad way at
Yeah.
that point if you're not just taking it easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, always knowing your body. And before you do any of this kind of stuff, these are integrative therapies, you guys. If you have any kind of medical diagnosis, if you're under treatment, if you're on medications, talk to your doctor,
For sure.
before you do anything like this. Always let a technician know what's going on before you jump into any therapy. Um, It's all so important. Such good information. Jacob, thank you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your research with us.
Yes.
Um, Now you are in Napa. CryoAid is in Napa. If we have any Napans listening, can they mention Becoming Ageless, seeing you on here and get, a first time discount?
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Basically, so if somebody wanted to come in and do the cold and the hot, a la carte, it'd be $100.
Okay.
But I'll do it for the listeners for 60.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. They'll get both therapies, knock 40 bucks off for them.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, you guys, you heard that. If you're in Napa or anywhere in the surrounding areas, jump into CryoAid. And what is the address there
It's 1075 Trancas Street in Napa.
in Napa? Or you could go onto the website, which is cryoaid.com.
It is.
Very cool. Now, if anybody has any other questions for you, can they touch base with you someplace?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're on Instagram. It's at CryoAid. And then also on Facebook, same thing. I think it's backspace CryoAid. You could also reach out to the Gmail account we have, which is cryoaid at Gmail, spelled CRYOAID.
Okay. Very good, you guys. And also, if you have questions, you can jump over to Becoming Ageless podcast on Instagram, find the poster to this episode, and just drop your question there. And if I can't answer it, I'll direct it over to Jacob and get him over there to answer it for you as well. Jacob, again, thank you for being with us. You guys, thank you for being here. I hope you got something out of this show. I hope you got some great information, something else to use in your tool belt. And Jacob, any last thoughts? If you had one or two non negotiables, what would it be?
So I actually put them down. I think you were asked for three. I'll just go over them
Three,
quick.
yes.
I'll go over them quickly. So
Okay.
the cold exposure,
Uh-huh.
right? The short bursts. And I even put here just even in the face in the ice bowl type thing. Um, Shortly, like even splashing it on your face, just getting kind of used to that. It is a non-negotiable because again, the only way to get that workout internally on your basal system is that constriction. So that's cold. Unless of course you're allergic to it. And then breath work, really, even if it's conscious breathing, like I'm an action guy, like even if you just from this point forward take 3 conscious breaths a day,
Yeah.
and it was more than you did before, amazing because it's going to give you a moment to be like, wow, I feel really good in this moment.
And
Right.
drop those shoulders as you exhale.
Yes. And relax those shoulders and then stretching. It's going to help with circulation, that lymph movement. You do want to stretch every day.
That's awesome. That is awesome information. I love every single one of those. All right, you guys. Stay tuned with us for more episodes just like this. You can subscribe to becomingagelesspodcast.com and stay in the know. Follow us on Instagram. And please, if you like this show, please rate us and make sure that you download the episode and share it with your friends. All right, you guys. Thank you. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, all of you guys, for listening. And we'll catch you next time here on Becoming Ageless.
Thanks for having me, Robin.
Absolutely.